we're back. So look, it's been, I think it's over a full 7 months, because it was early December when I last uploaded a recorded episode. I last did lives with Zizpoms and Rupak in December as well, I'm pretty sure. But the only difference is that back then I didn't know how to save the lives, because I never looked into it. And so they're just gone. Right? There's nothing I can do with them. But all the recorded stuff is up there. I decided I'm recording this on Monday. Obviously, I've left a bit of time between my re-uploads and this uploading to give anyone the chance to sort of find my stuff or just find out that I'm coming back if they wanted to. I know there's not a lot of you here. There's 234 subscribers at time of recording. I'm honestly surprised that you all didn't vanish or like unsubscribe to the channel, but then it probably shows that most of you don't do that with the rest of them. Or in the more positive spin, maybe you just held hope that maybe I'd come back, which I am. So I genuinely didn't think I'd begin again. I left this open because I thought that maybe there would be a small chance, but I didn't view it as particularly. It's my microphone for today. Hopefully this works better than that. That one made me sound like a robot. I don't think this one does. I certainly hope not. But yeah, so I've been in the gym a few times they've always been leg sessions for some reason. And I've just gotten the urge to start recording and talking about sports again, because even though, I don't necessarily have the same time, I still enjoyed it. And this only took like an hour and a half of my time normally. Like sometimes the lives I did took a bit longer. The episode I did with United Cloud, that took me an hour and a half, and that was travel time. Like that was a bit of a long one, and then I was just with him after as well. So that one took a bit long. But on the whole, these generally don't take longer than like an hour and a half out of my week. So, and I just enjoy it, and I also wanted to branch into other things because I just find them fun. And then I had my arm twisted by a couple of people. Arm twisted is a bit on the exaggerated side. I was almost there, and then they just sort of pushed me over the edge. So I'll mention them. It's 3 people mainly who have sort of campaigned for it. 4, I'll say, but mainly 3, and I'll mention them at the end. So the format's not going to be the exact same as how I used to do it. So obviously before it was 1 episode a week. Usually it ended up being 2 to 3 a month, because I pretty much always miss one across I did them 13 across 4 months. It pretty much always be about 3 and 4, and it was always just me yapping on with something. Obviously there was a couple of ones where I had some guests on, and they were probably my favourite to do, because it's bouncing back and forth as opposed to just me looking in a mirror like a schizophrenic. So yeah, I still am going to keep the solo ones like this. I'm going to keep them not to a minimum, but I will do them because these allow me to expand and let me think through things on a deeper level before. I'm a big fidgeter. I'm just going to deal with this. I will get a proper microphone. It's a hook on here. I don't know about a camera. I think the Mac one's just fine. But yeah, especially for the solo pods. And then the extra thing that I'm going to do is a sort of roundtable thing. So for those of you who follow other sports, you'd have seen Player's Choice, I hope. They have 130,000 subscribers. I don't like some of the people who are on there in terms of the way they deliver their views or things like that. Trying to like this super objective arbiter of things, but I think it's fine to have real opinions. As I sort of made my name with the people who followed me across time. But their format's very good in terms of just allowing sort of people to jump on. They have a few mainstays, a few regulars, and then a few people who just jump on. And the mainstays are able to sort of direct the flow of the conversation. Their stuff, the format that they figured out is very, very good, and that's sort of what I'm biting it from. So yeah, that's how it will be. So I'm gonna have some podcasts type stuff, some of that. I'll look to upload everything onto Spotify, because I know that looking at the Spotify metrics, quite a few people actually did listen to them, which surprised me, but it's a pleasant surprise. That's my phone battery saying it's not going to have much left. I'm going to have to disappear for a second. Oh no, I've got a charger here. It's brilliant. Yeah. I might just have to hold my phone. But it's going to make this a bit awkward, but hey, we'll roll with it. So, yeah, that's how I'm going to do it. So that is the one change. That's more like a format change. The other change I'm going to do is that I'm going to be talking about other topics. Whereas before I was essentially strictly football, like all 13 episodes were strictly based around football. Like there was no basketball, no American football, no other sports whatsoever. I am going to talk about them on a more regular basis. Why not? Like I like other sports, I enjoy them. This year my viewing experience with the NFL was probably my favourite of any of them. So with all that said, I think it just makes sense for me. And I'm learning about the NFL too. I know a good deal about basketball, so especially the concepts, like a lot of my principles across the sport translates across football and basketball. American football is unique. Like it's one of maybe the most unique sport. Certainly the most unique of the ones that I follow. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about basketball and some boxing because that is my sport of choice in terms of the doing side of it. So I enjoy basketball and boxing more than those in terms of playing and participating. I also I'm not sure how much this one will end up coming in, maybe like little tidbits at the end, but there will probably be some media comments as well. So I don't necessarily watch that many shows. I've watched maybe 4 shows in my entire life. But movies I may, because I'll usually watch like 3 to 4 movies in a month, like usually at a weekend and things like that. So I'll talk about them. A lot of it is just like regular stuff, but sometimes I'll watch a really good one and maybe I'll end up talking about it. But the main thing will be football, other sports, and we talk about those. And then the roundtable will be a bit of everything, like predominantly football, because that's where the majority of my followers on Twitter come from. But the solo stuff will have a bit more of just me riffing on other things. Had my scroll session where everything comes from, and everything's ready now. So, yeah, what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look to have 1 to 2 pieces of content a week. Usually 1, sometimes it'll stretch into 2. But yeah, regularly it'll just be 1 because I think that's just what my time allows me to do. Especially like with the small pieces of editing at the end and the thumbnails and predominantly the thumbnails because I have to spend a bit of time on Canva and I have to be actually bothered to do that. But hey, so yeah. So thanks to those, that is the house phone, which I certainly hope someone will get. Yep, it's gone. So thank you to all of those who have stayed. Like I've already mentioned it, but I am surprised that as many of you stayed as you did. My subscriber count's gone up by like 15 as soon as I said I'm coming back, which is a big surprise because I didn't expect that. I got told when I quit for people told me to come back, and I was like, "Are you sure? Like, I don't know if I want to do this as much." And they were like, "No, you should come back." And like I said, there are a few people who mainly did it, and I was like, yeah, you know what, go ahead. And the reception since I've come back has been super positive. Like, I got a ton of votes on my poll. I had a bunch of comments saying, I had some DMs coming in saying it was genuinely it was a nice thing. So, the next thing, so there are 3 main people who have been telling me to come back. So, Anish, who, like, he's a bit of a troll, but he's funny, so you should follow him, Anish Thacker44 or whatever, ANISHTH something 44. He's been saying for ages. Someone called Sim, I don't know who it's at, but he's cool. He's been telling me to come back. And Zonal Brains, he's super smart. You should follow him. He does nice threads. He's not got close to enough followers. He's been telling me for a while. I also promised him I'd do a podcast with him because he's going to start one soon. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And he's been telling me for ages that I should start my own stuff again. And then Zizpoms. I'm assuming that anyone who watches me and follows me is aware of Zizpoms. We were talking, so he just asked me in general on Saturday. I think it was Saturday. He was like, why did you stop? And I was like, I just didn't want to do it anymore. He was like, no, and I said, the only part that I would maybe come back for is maybe a 2-hour podcast a week, 1 to 2 hours. And he was like, no, this would be great. You should do it. And even do like a player's choice. And that was his idea. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Why not? So I was busy yesterday. I was busy Sunday. And I was like, yeah, go on. let's try this. Let's give this a little trial run. And yeah, so I think I am going to stick to it because I do enjoy talking, as a lot of you have figured out. I spent 10 minutes just on my reintroduction to this. So as a lot of you have figured out, I do enjoy a good yapping session. That's what I was known for. There was one guy who said he likes my big forehead, or at least missed it. Who knows? But for the most part, people just seem to enjoy me yapping, which I take as a massive compliment, because it means that I can speak. I'm assuming it means that I can speak well too, which is always something I've been told, so hey. So, I'm going to start this off with my allegiances in each sport. So, the three predominant ones. I'll also mention tennis, just because Wimbledon is on. Tennis, I like Djokovic. He's old, right? But I like him. Always have. I don't know why. I was like 8 years old, and the Australian Open was on, and he was playing. I was like, this guy looks good. This guy looks cool. I'm going to like him. So I supported him. This is in like 2011. Yeah, I was sick. I was off one day from school. I was sick with something. I don't know what. So he's my guy of choice in there. I only really follow the slams. Like French Open, I had the final on when I was with my cousin. Wimbledon, I'll follow the final. Australian Open, the Olympics, US Open. Anything else isn't really of interest. I'm by no means a tennis junkie. I don't know what makes a player good and what makes a player bad. All I know is that tennis is beautiful and good shots look cool. So that's my understanding of it, right? Boxing, that's what I do, so I have like a much greater appreciation of it than for tennis. My favourite fighter is Crawford. He pretty much has been for, 2025, for like 9 years now. 10 years. I've always liked Crawford. The switch hitting, he can go both ways, southpaw, orthodox. He's got just as much power in his right hand as he does in his predominant left. He's actually a lefty who started off orthodox, but he went to southpaw. Or was it? No, he's a righty. Yeah, I got that the wrong way around. So he's a right-hander, and he switched to southpaw because it means it's more powerful hands doing the jabbing, and that's licking the opponent more often. Beautiful footwork, crazy work on the inside. He's one of the most complete fighters I've seen. I have other favourite fighters. Crawford's obviously quite old now. I don't think he's going to win in September against Canelo, but I'll be rooting for him either way. Some people love that. That'll be a fun fight. I actually quite like Canelo as well. But yeah, Crawford's been my favourite for a long time. Basically, my three favourites in general, say the last 20 years, are Floyd, Golovkin, and Crawford. Floyd's been retired for 10 years in essence. Like, the McGregor fight doesn't count. It was an exhibition, essentially, that he got paid a ton of money for. And then the other one is Golovkin. So Golovkin, just beautiful. Like, he is the guy who when I train and I spar and I get involved, he is the guy who I end up trying to model because his footwork and his jab. And he's not someone with the quickest feet, and he's not someone with the fastest hands, but beautiful fundamentals, walks you down. But he's also got like a lovely twist to his elements because he's got those looping hook shots and the way he loads up on his shots, and he's just a very Mexican style fighter. And even the Mexican Canelo isn't even fighting today. So yeah, those are my three, but Crawford's obviously the only one who's still about, and he is my favourite. So my favourites across the two other sports, which I imagine that I'm going to be talking about the most, is the NFL and the NBA. So the NFL, I don't have a real rooting interest in the NFL. I pick my guys as the season sort of wears along, because I don't necessarily have a favourite team. I used to like the Seahawks. I like Marshawn Lynch, and I like Cam Chancellor. Obviously, Lynch has been retired. Chancellor was at risk of paralysis because he had some stingers in his neck or something. So I stopped liking them because I didn't like Russell Wilson. He disgusts me. I liked Richard Sherman. I liked Earl Thomas. I liked Wagner. I liked the defensive ends, Averill and Bennett. I liked whoever, their other corner would always be cool, whether it was Brandon Browner or whether it was someone else. They had Jeremy Lane, he was very good. If he didn't break his arm, they'd have probably won that Super Bowl and gone back to back. And then KJ Wright was always tough. Bruce Irvin for a few years, he was tough. They always had their nickel corner as well. So I liked the Seahawks. After that, I liked Jalen Ramsey and the Jags because they had Calais Campbell. I liked Leonard Fournette. I like running backs. And I like physical defense. Those are the things I like in the NFL. So then went to there. And then I was and the quarterbacks I've always liked Aaron Rodgers. Like, Rodgers is my guy. The way that he flings a football is insane. He is the most naturally gifted thrower that I've seen. He is absolutely beautiful to watch. And sucks that he's rubbish now, but I'll still root for him even with the Jets. I bounced around with a few different teams in terms of viewing interest. Like, I've liked various different teams at various different points. I like the Rams at some points because I liked Odell. I also just like unique talents in general. Like, I like Julio Jones. I like Odell. Running backs, right now, I quite like the Eagles because I like Saquon and I like some of their receivers and their defense is just beautiful. And they're just I like physical, unstoppable teams. There's a lot of you have figured out from my rooting interests. But yeah, I don't really have a team going in year to year. Like this year, I'll be rooting for the Steelers, I guess. I like the Ravens to make the Super Bowl because I like Henry, I like Jackson, but I don't think they will. But hey, you know. But yeah, Eagles were my rooting interest towards the playoffs last year. So yeah, and then the NBA needs an introduction. LeBron. LeBron's my favorite athlete. I'm not looking forward to the day that he retires. If I'm still creating content at that point, expect like an hour-long recount of his career, just a long session of me talking about LeBron and why I love him so much. So yeah, outside of other players, I like a lot of my favorites aren't necessarily in competitive spots. I like Kawhi, but because two-way freak, beautiful jump shooter, mid-range freak, but he's just a cripple, unfortunately. Giannis I like. Unfortunately, my guy post-LeBron is rubbish now. He's a mental midget. Ben Simmons. I loved him. 6'11", runs like the wind, beautiful passer, attacks the paint, post-game, and he's just a coward. He's afraid of the free throw line. So yeah, screw him, man. So I gave up with him. And I'm going to see if this will last in games. Expect this to move from one point to the other. But yeah, Ben Simmons was meant to be my guy post-LeBron. And then the Atlanta series just killed him. I wish he never played for Philly. His fit with Embiid was never good. If he'd played for someone else, I'm not crying, I've got dry eye before any of you start accusing me. I'm expecting one person in particular to comment about this. But we'll see if I'm right about them. So yeah, those are my allegiances in sports. That's really the 5 sports I even loosely follow. Tennis is a really loose one, I guess. But yeah, I don't follow MMA. Like, I will talk about big sporting events. Like maybe I'll follow, like, say, the Ilya fight from a couple of weeks ago. I might have covered that if I was doing this then. But for the moment, like, I don't follow baseball at all. Like cricket, I don't follow at all. Like maybe if something historic happens, like say today, that fella was on 367. He had a chance to pass Lara's record of 400, and he just didn't. Shout out you, I guess, sportsman. But hey, you know, that's about it really. So I figured today it would just be that, and I lean into the old Q&A stuff I used to do on TikTok, because that is sort of where I initially made my name, which is what brought a lot of you over to even subscribe to this channel. So I had an old note in my phone of questions I'd be asked and ones that I answered. So this was one that was asked in December. This is when the gap in the title race was only around 7 to 8 points between Liverpool and Arsenal. City were essentially out of the title race by this point. And so I decided I'd note that down. And it was something to do with Arsenal dynamic attacker. It was like, do I think they'll panic buy? I don't think they would. But, you know, they ultimately never did. Maybe they should have, because, you know, the title race just didn't end as it was supposed to for them. Last year was meant to be their year, right? City were off the bounce of 4 in a row. Most people didn't feasibly think that City were going to win 5 in a row. And as such, people like Arsenal as the betting favourites because Liverpool had some clear structural weaknesses, and their best manager in the last 40, 30 years had already gone in Klopp. So people thought they were due for a fall down, people thought they were due for a big come down, which is natural. I thought the same. I picked City again just because I couldn't picture Arteta beating Pep in a title race. That's something which I still just can't compute in my head. Now, if it's not a title race, maybe I can see it. But if it's actually them going head to head, I just don't see it. But obviously things blew up in Arteta's face because Liverpool took advantage and they racked up points to begin the year, and ultimately it was never really a race. Like February, March time, the title was totally done. I thought it was done by Boxing Day. Like after Liverpool beat up on City at Anfield when they beat them 2-0, I thought, yeah, this is done. I don't see a way. I don't see Arsenal beating them. and City just looked dumb. So I thought from that point Liverpool would win the league. And every time I would do the maths on it, like projection of points based on the maths at that point, Liverpool were always above 90, and Arsenal were on like 70. And I was like, okay, Liverpool will probably regress by about 10 points to about 80, between 86 and 90, probably around 80s. I think we finished on around 88, all things considered. And I thought Arsenal would finish on like 80. I thought Liverpool would do about 8 to 10 points, which I think they did in the end. I don't remember the number. All I remember is that they had like 84 points or something. People like to point that as some sort of flaw against them and some benefit for Arsenal. It's like, no. Liverpool didn't. Did Liverpool even win in their final 4 games of the year? I don't think they did. Did they draw? Or did they win? I don't remember. Because I didn't really follow it. After they won the league, I sort of checked out. But yeah, the title was essentially done, and they just stopped caring. So yeah, there wasn't really anything in it for them. So they just disengaged, and they got like 4 points from 12 to close the season or something because they just didn't care again. So yeah, that was that. And yeah, that was what ended up happening there. So the actual question was, I decided to repurpose that question into Arsenal dynamic attacker. So the Gyökeres deal as of Monday, July. Yeah, have I said Tuesday? It's Monday, by the way. It is Monday. That Gyökeres deal seems functionally finished. Everything seems done. Portuguese media reported that he's packing his bags and going to London. I'm not used to talking anymore. My throat is mad dry. I've already been talking for 20 minutes. Drawback of not doing regular TikToks. So, yeah, the Gyökeres deal is functionally complete. Now, he's a good picker, don't get me wrong, but he seems to have some flaws. Mainly, I can't say that I've watched a huge amount of him, right? I'm not claiming to be an expert on him. But by all accounts, for people who have, his first touch isn't great, his understanding of space doesn't seem to be fantastic, and apparently his shot execution, in terms of the amount of time it takes him to get a shot off, apparently isn't great either. Now, I don't know how much issue that will be for Arsenal. We'll have to see, because do they really need someone who can get shots off at a mass pace? If the guy can hit first time finishes, I don't think it'll be a threat. I don't think it'll be that big of a worry. And if the guy can run in behind. Now, he seems like a bit of a physical phenom in terms of a guy who can run in behind, and he seems relatively strong. I'm not sure how much of that is hold-up strength and how much of that is just bodybuilder strength. We'll have to see. But nonetheless, he's a good pickup, right? He's someone who can get in behind. He's someone who can finish off the chances that Saka and whoever the left winger they bring in can create for him. And as a result, you have a nice player there who can finish off the chances that you need. But you still need another player next to him. Gyökeres can't be your sole guy. Now, Madueke seems to be a guy who's on the board for them. He seems to be the next guy who's going to come in. Now, if he's going to be Rafinha, I don't mind it, but at the same time, he can't be your marquee wing. He can't be your marquee wide signing. He can't be the guy who you're going to rely on for a bunch of goals from wide. So I think he's going to be signed as a depth option if that deal does get done for about 50 million, and he'll be nice because he can be a good depth piece. Obviously, they've got Zubamendi and Norgard. They're good. The two other names that I keep seeing mentioned, obviously Zubamendi and Norgard are midfield signings. Zubamendi will be their starting midfielder alongside Rice, and they have Ødegaard. Norgard will be a depth piece. And then Eze and Rodrigo seem to be the two main attacking signings who they're going to be after. I assume it will be one or the other. Eze gives them flexibility long term. Say if a real superstar becomes available, right? So, because obviously then you can bench him, he turns into a bench piece, so you can even convert him into a midfielder. Turn into a 4-2-3-1. He takes Ødegaard's place, and Eze takes the 10 in Euro of whoever that superstar left winger is coming in. Rodrigo sort of caps you. He has to now play, because he's going to cost 100 and something million. And he's made a fuss to get there. And he's now the marquee Emirates signing, essentially, since Ozil, basically. No, since Alexis. Alexis came after Ozil. Because right now, Arteta's marquee signing is who? Rice, Havertz, is one of those two, really. And I'll be honest, they aren't sexy enough to be your marquee signing. Rice has been a hit, right? I will never think that a guy who doesn't win you games with goals on a regular basis is worth 100 million, because you can get 80% of the impact for 40% of the price, maybe 50% in today's market, but nonetheless, you can aggregate that value out across players. And Havertz is just he's a functional help piece. He's not your marquee piece. So Rodrigo's going to be that, and he has to work. Now, say you can shift him into the 10 and turn it into a 4-4-2 and have a marquee left winger signing, but that requires some flexibility. And realistically, if you're going to spend 100 million on a player to be your left winger, you'd better play him left wing. This can't be another Havertz where you spend 60, 70 million on a player to be your striker and you have to play him as a left 8. Or left 8 and play him as your striker. However the model, I think he started off as a left 8 and you have to turn him into a striker. Either way, that can't be your solution. So, if your front three is Rodrigo, Gyökeres and Saka, I think that works pretty well. Because Rodrigo can work it, so Rodrigo can function as the guy who bounces passes off Gyökeres and feeds him behind. He's the one who can knit everything together. He also takes some of the creative burden off of Saka. I don't think Saka can be a 30-goal a season guy. I know people who are very smart who do think he can. And if he can be that, then, and Rodrigo, say you're 15, 20, 25 goal a season guy, and Gyökeres can give you 30 plus, I think you're in a very good spot then, as an Arsenal team. So, at that point, you're now in a spot where you have 3 guys who can give you 20 plus goals, and 2 guys who can set up 20 to 25 in a season as well. So, I think Gyökeres can be that ball-to-feet guy running behind. He can finish off those chances. And then, just have the creative burden off Saka. More scoring burden on Saka, but I think with his ball striking, I guess, maybe that can function. But I probably would prefer Rodrigo as that, but he's not got the physical chops. So, yeah. And then that would lead me to being higher on Arsenal than I have been in the past 2 years. In each of the last 2 years, I didn't think they had enough juice going forward. I didn't think Rodrigo had enough. No, I didn't think Martinelli had enough. I didn't think Havertz or Jesus had enough. I don't think Saka can be your absolute clear-cut number 1 best player on a title-winning team. I think he can be in contention for it with another guy who's a very, very good player, Rodrigo. I don't think that he has that to be the clear-cut number 1, which is a bit of a shame for Arsenal because I think that's sort of what they were banking on, but ultimately you don't have that. So, in terms of what's next, Gyökeres is a question mark. We're not going to act like he's like a slam dunk, right? There's a reason why so many teams weren't in for him, right? Because only for 60, 70, maybe 75 million tops, that's a very good bargain option for a striker, but it just seems that teams don't trust him. And if teams don't trust you and you're that cheap relative to today's striker market, that's a bit of a red flag, I guess. And he's not young either. I think he's like 26, 27. So as a result, there are some question marks surrounding him. But the rest of it I like. So Rodrigo and Saka together. The rest, say if your team is Raya, Timber, you have Saliba and Gabriel, and you have, let's just say, Skelly. And then your midfield 3 is Odegaard, Rice, and Zubamendi. I assume Zubamendi's a 6. Rice is sort of roaming as the box-to-box guy, and you have Odegaard as the guy who's sitting at the top of the pitch. I don't particularly rate Odegaard. I also think you should flip those 2. I think you should have Rice as the one who overlaps with Saka to allow Saka to go inside, and then you have Odegaard, who's the one who can combine with Rodrigo. I think those naturally actually fit those guys much better. Because Rice also provides a crossing option to Gyökeres. And I get Gyökeres isn't a very good header of the ball, but he has height and he can provide a bit of a target. And even if it's just low crosses, then Odegaard can slip those passes through and link up well with Rodrigo. So I actually quite like that. But it remains to be seen how Arteta fits it up, because for some reason he's enamored with Odegaard as this right-sided player, which I just don't think he is. I don't think he's good enough to provide enough value to justify it. And then up front, your depth pieces, because I think top-end depth pieces are super important in terms of the top of the pitch. Madueke, Martinelli, and Trossard. Jesus, if he stays, and you even have Havertz there as well. You have 5, and obviously a lot of those guys can cover other areas as well. Trossard can cover the left, he can cover the middle. Madueke can cover the right, he can cover the left. Martinelli can cover the left, he can cover the right. And he can also cover through the middle. And then Havertz can cover the middle, he can also cover some spots in central midfield. And then who else do you have? Jesus, he can cover both wings, so that's another nice piece. So yeah, I like those a lot. I would much prefer this Arsenal team to other versions of it that were meant to compete for a title. Would I have them as title favourites? No, but I think at this point it's much more of a toss-up than it is at any other point. Especially if Liverpool don't have a striker. If Liverpool had a striker, obviously Jota passed, so I think unfortunately for them, sort of throws a bit of a wrench in the movement of their transfer machine. Because I think what the plan for them was, you sell two of Diaz, Jota, and Nunes. Those two will fetch in, say, 150, and then together, well, Jota only fetched about 40 to 50 in the market. But either way, you're getting 9 figures to spend, and you just spend that money on a top-end forward. Whether it's Ekitike, or whether it's Isak, or whether it's, say, you go to Milan and get a Rafa Leao. Now, that's a really good move. And that would have really positioned them as clear-cut favourites for me. But if Liverpool don't get those players in, then I think Arsenal with Rodrigo, with Gyökeres, with Zubimendi, that fixes a lot of their issues. I think that has them in a position where they can be called real title contenders next to Liverpool. And City will be right there as well, obviously. But I still wouldn't call them title favourites, but I would have them at a comparable level to these other teams. So yeah, I think they should get those deals ready, and if they can, get them over the line as quick as they can. The season starts in like 5 weeks, so you want to have these guys in place, ready. Unfortunately, and obviously Liverpool might just not make as many moves in the window now, because they might bring guys in, but they maybe won't necessarily sell guys because they don't want to force anyone out. Diaz looks like he wants to leave, so he's in a sort of in a separate bucket. If Nunes doesn't want to leave, I don't think they're going to force him out, even though they should from an objective sporting standpoint. I don't think they will. So we'll have to see. They sort of got lucky with Kwanzaa leaving, actually, when he did, because obviously, then they still need the money free for Gay. They still need the money free for Gay. They still need the extra money in from. You still need to go out and buy a forward. So we'll have to see what happens. So obviously, tragedy surrounding Jota. Unfortunate, but yeah, what can you do? It's just unfortunate. So, and the other question I had that I wanted to answer, I might do another. I don't want to go too long on this because, I don't know. Maybe you guys should leave in the comments across Spotify and YouTube. How long do you like these episodes? Because I think 45 to 50 minutes is a bit of a sweet spot. 45 minutes to an hour especially. I feel like anything above an hour, I feel like I can ramble on a bit. I feel like that stretches on for maybe a bit too long. But if you guys like them, I can do that. I don't have a problem. I can talk forever. I prepared 2 more answers, which I imagine will cover 15 to 20 minutes each. I'm not sure I'm going to do both though. I might just do the other one for next time. But yeah, I'm not sure how you guys want to play this. But yeah, leave in the comments. I might leave a poll. Can you leave poll in YouTube? I don't know. I think you can on Spotify. Go on Spotify. If there's not a poll option on YouTube, go on to Spotify. Even if you don't view the episode, like it. But don't even if you don't watch the episode, hit the poll on Spotify. If not, just comment on YouTube saying over an hour, as in closer to an hour and a half or under an hour, and I'll find a sweet medium within there. But yeah, whatever you guys prefer, really. But do like and subscribe, because yeah, let's try and let's try and make this. I want to try and make this something relatively simple, because I quite enjoy these, and it'd be cool to have a bit of a thing for this, both in the solo stuff and with the roundtable players choice model. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So back to the topic at hand. I'm going to have. So the other question I had was, what sting? And this was a question from Anish. So it's a really clever one. It's what elements would I take from American football and put them into European football? And what elements would I take from European football and put into American sports? American sports into football, and European sports in European football into American sports. That's what the question was. So in terms of American football in terms of the American stuff into normal football, the stop clock is the first thing. For the love of God, have a stop clock. Please, is it that hard? Run the numbers. So I GPT, and I'm not saying that GPT is by any means perfect, right? But what I am saying is that it's good enough, right? So the average length of the ball being in play for a normal football match, so non-World Cup 2022, because that's where it pulled the data from, 55 to 60 minutes. With the World Cup in 22, it was 60 to 70 minutes. I see no reason why you can't just have 60-minute football matches with the ball being stopped anytime it goes out of play. Like, is it so hard? Like, I'm going to... in terms of the actual functionality, people are saying, oh, the stoppage time and this. If you just make it 60 minutes, right, change it to the 60 minutes with the stop clock, VAR, injury stoppages, goals. Just stop the clock every single time, please. Have it count down from 60 to 0. Just have it 2 30-minute halves, nice and simple. And then, say, instead of stoppage time, where, say, if you're on a final attack, the ref will add an extra 30 seconds, like just to let you pump the ball into the box, or if you're within 18 yards of it, you can just have a pot shot. Have it like that, and it's at the discretion of either the ref, or you have a third-party referee, say, central replay center type thing, who's just in the ear of the ref saying, look, final attack now, it's gone on long enough, finish it. And even then, realistically, if, let's say we get to 0, say the clock hits zeros, because it's not a buzzer, it's down to the discretion. Have it more like the NFL, where as long as the ball is snapped, or as long as the ball is in a dangerous area, you can get the playoff. So, like, if you're, like, 30 yards, or if you're 40 yards from goal, but you're wide, and you can whip the ball into the box, let that happen. If the defenders head it away, and it doesn't instantly drop to the foot of the opposition, no, to the foot of the attacking team, stop the play, blow the whistle, kaput, simple, finish the game. Like, just have it like that, and then you finish the game, and it's really simple. I think that's a good model to have, in terms of the stop clock and the timekeeping. So that way, it's really strict and things like that. And you don't have players rolling around. It'll stop the injuries being as much in terms of holding up as much time. 15-minute half time, 30 minutes. I think that would work really well as opposed to the 45. Because ultimately, the 30 minutes is still going to take 45. So what's the difference? Maybe you get some injury breaks for breathers, but in reality, that's it. So yeah, I think that the stop clock would be a really good addition to it. So the other thing I think would be a really good addition, and this one is probably going to cause even more outrage than the stop clock, is a cap on wages and a cap on spending. So a big issue that people complain about in football is that the big clubs are just on a never-ending pursuit of dominance, and the rest of the clubs can just pick up the scraps. There's a reason that Crystal Palace winning the cup was such a miraculous thing, because it hadn't happened for so long, and it's improbable that things like that happen, which is why the cup has such a magical connotation when it's mentioned. Like, there's a reason why when Swansea won in 2013 against Bradford, it was such a miracle, right? Because Bradford aren't supposed to be there. Swansea aren't supposed to be there. So what you need to do is, if you want that to be more of a popular thing, and not just with, oh, it's a magical story, because the authorities don't want that. No, I don't think. I don't think it's in their interest to have it. But let's just say they do. Make a cap on spending and wages. So the cap stays central, right? Let's say you're allowed to spend, I don't know what the average payroll is in terms of players. Let's say you spend 150 million a year on wages. So you make it as that's steady, right? Hard cap. No luxury taxes, no extras, none of this, none of that. You have to stick, because obviously in America you can be fined draft picks and luxury tax and this. Make it so that there's a hard cap on the salary cap and there's a hard cap on the spending. So salary cap is easy, because you just have to figure out what an average is across the leagues, and you just make it so that they can only spend so much, each of the teams in the top leagues. So, and here's the thing that people are going to say, oh, how do you translate it all across Europe? UEFA do it. Simple, just make UEFA do it. The global market doesn't matter, right? Because all the best players come to Europe anyway. Teams go to Saudi at the end because they want to get a fat paycheck for low-intensity football. Al Hilal are not the norm. So just say the average of the top 5 to 6 payrolls in Europe, UEFA distribute all the cash across, and they trickle it out across the leagues, and they say you're allowed to spend X amount on wages each and every year. Simple, you have it as that, because ultimately you generate the money. I'm thinking some of this out to about. I've got a bunch of notes scrolled here, nothing legible to you lot, but you have it like that, and make it so that you're only allowed to spend X amount on wages each and every year. So this won't necessarily hamper the smaller teams as much as people think it will, but it will hamper the big teams in terms of bringing them back to the pack. Like Liverpool, No, not Liverpool are actually that example. United. They won't be able to just spend themselves into oblivion and be stuck with these horrible contracts. Like, say, some of these bums who they just can't get rid of. Like, say, who am I trying to think of? Casemiro on like 400k a week, whatever that translates to in a year. Like, you can't saddle yourselves with such huge contracts that actually acts in their best interest. Well, let's say Barcelona, when they were giving out stupid wages to Messi, you can't give that out. And it doesn't hamstring your club for the foreseeable future now. Things like that. It'll just work out like that and it'll hamstring them, bring them further back to the pack, and just make football on the whole more equitable. It's not going to make it like communist. It's not going to be socialist. It's not going to be it's not going to be the modern day NBA, where there's been a new champion every single year since 2019, where there's not been a repeat champion, just the KD Steph Warriors. But what it will do is it makes it so that the types of things where we're looking for, where it's new stories, new magic and things like that, is more accessible to us. So that's, I think, will be a very good thing. And then the spending cap, something similar. Figure out what the average spend is and make a cap up based on that. And then that way, you end up having teams spend an equitable amount. But obviously make that like a yearly thing. That's like a rolling average yearly thing. Let's say one summer you can spend 100 million, the other summer you spend 150, the other summer 200. Like obviously it just goes up incrementally by a small percentage point each year. And ultimately this way, you have to spend your way sensibly. Or let's say make it do a net spend thing. Like say, actually no, because then you can have big clubs by interest. By the same groups. No, don't do a net spend thing. Make it raw spend. Yeah, make it raw spend. And the teams that, don't make it a net spend thing. Make it raw spend. You're able to spend like 300 million a year and make it so things are just more equitable in general. I think it would be fun to see how teams actually operate on strapped for cash budgets. Whereas, say, Man City, the net spend I'm trying to go back and forth in my head. Does it work? Does it not? The player has to be on your books for X amount of years or something like that. I don't know. No same ownership groups. Like eradicate that altogether. Like the model that Chelsea have with them and their other thing. I don't know. Multi-club. It's not a fully fleshed out idea. That might have to be a writing thing. I don't think I'm going to write. Someone else can write. Someone else, you can write this. You feel free. This is my IP. I give it to you. So yeah, that's what I would like to see. So yeah, those are the two things that I would maybe like to see. There was one other thing, don't you? Oh, I need you. So, and then the other thing I'd like to see, and again, I'm not sure how you'd enforce this, is I'd like to see younger players stay at their first club for longer. But again, I'm not sure how you enforce this with contracts. I don't think this would ever be feasible. So that would just be like a like to have, but it's not a necessary. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. In terms of, so there are two other things that are like smarter than to waffle on about as much. So replays, VAR. VAR, unfortunately, at the minute is operated by people in the truck, like specific to the game. Have a replay center. Have like a full-on people whose full-time job is to analyze games from a video-assisted point. That's their job, right? They're never in the field. That's what I'd like. So the NFL and the NBA, they have the replay center. So the NFL has their replay center, the NBA has theirs. NFL just call it New York, I'm pretty sure. Replay center, or whatever it is. So you have it like that. I think that would be a very good alternative because of the fact that you have someone who's always reffing games from a replay center standpoint. They go back and forth with the official who's on the game, and then you have it so it's not being altered by someone who doesn't understand the flow of the game because they go back and forth, right? That's what I think would be a good alternative. And then mic'd up. Other leagues have already done. I think I've seen it in Australia. I think it was Australia. The ref wears a mic and he just announces the decision from a VAR thing. So let's say in football there's a handball and the referee goes to the monitor, he gives the handball and he goes, like, they should always go over to the monitor, by the way. They should absolutely, every single time, they should go over to the monitor. Like, there should be no room for discussion over that. They should always go to the monitor. And then you should go back and forth with the replay official and things like that. And at the end of it, they should say, Bernardo Silva did not handle the ball in a deliberate manner. No penalty. Or let's say Bernardo Silva stuck his arm out in an unnatural position.
original decision stands, penalty awarded. Just things like that. Make the people understand why the decision is given, right? And don't just do like a, like, no, you look like you're doing sign language to a bunch of idiots. No. Have it on a microphone. They don't have to do some aura merchant poses where they're standing like Superman in the middle of the thing. Just have it so, all they end up doing is they end up talking and discussing, and they just announce their decision to the fans. Because then the people at home understand it, and the people in the stadium understand it. It's not as bad for the people at home. For the people in the stadium, the way the VAR thing works right now is abhorrent. There's absolutely no way it should continue on as it is. Take notes from the Americans and figure it out. People are talking about Hawkeye in trying to use the tennis things. You all just hate Americans. The Americans have their replay stuff figured out relatively well. It's not perfect, not by any means. There are definite flaws with it. Unfortunately, tennis is binary. And football isn't. American football also isn't binary because of all the hits to the head and things like that. The NBA isn't binary. So how things should work is you should follow their models as opposed to a tennis model just because you hate Americans. So yeah, you should do that. So American examples to European examples to the Americans. So the rhythm of the game is often disrupted. Obviously, that's not a new complaint. That's something that many English people, like people at home that I discuss with, the reason they can't watch it, the reason they much prefer the highlights is because of like then you just see plays. Like they would much prefer just an entire condensed game. No stoppages, no highlights. Say Rodgers throws the ball to Adams. Okay, he's tackled. Straight into the next play. Obviously, that's not functionally possible because you need to call the plays. People need a split second of rest and things like that because they're sprinting for the entire 60 seconds. Well, 10 seconds, let's call it. So I understand it. I'm not saying I don't. But nonetheless, that element has to stay. What I would like to see is on games where there's a little flag. So like say Aaron Rodgers was great at this. If you YouTube Aaron Rodgers hard count, things like that would be good. But even ones where they aren't triggered by the opposition. So like say you have someone whose pre-snap stuff isn't very good. Let's say like all rookies generally aren't very good pre-snap. Let's say Caleb Williams. He can't go, like he's not going to do a hard count saying hut hut, like on a fake count. Gets the guy to jump off sides and the snap bang bang bang. What will end up happening is that, let's say, if someone jumps the count and the snap ends up coinciding, or just in general, like the snap goes, and let's say they're still offside and you snap the ball, you just let the play develop. Free play. And if it doesn't work, they can decline the penalty, and no, they can accept the penalty and just go play again. Simple as that. The NBA, the thing I'd like to see is the guy, normally they happen in take fouls, right, in the middle of the court. Obviously, end-game take fouls are totally different. You ignore them. What I'd say is, you have it for... I've got a lot of gas. So, transitions, right? Let's say LeBron steals the ball and he ends up grabbing it. He's going coast to coast and someone tries to wrap him up. Let's say you just like give him a little slap on his arm or something. Normally, the ref would call that instantly. Instead of the ref calling it instantly, you just let the play go. He dunks the ball. Ref blows the whistle, gives LeBron 2 free throws on top of that. So, yeah, LeBron takes that, he takes the 2 free throws. Retroactively, that player is given a foul on top of what he already has, and he also gets given a tech. So LeBron gets the 2 points, gets the 2 free throws, the opposition gets a tech, and the opposition also gets a play. So let's say Draymond fouls him. Draymond's already on 3 fouls because he's just a raving loony. And this is like second quarter, like Draymond's just being a dumbass. And so LeBron, he can't reach him, so he just like does a dive bomb at LeBron, like he just like snaps his arm or something. LeBron dunks it, so that's 2 points. He gets the foul, 2 more points. Draymond gets the 4th foul. Draymond gets a tech. He gets thrown out because Draymond, he probably got a tech in the first play of the game, and then that's it. Now people may say that disproportionately swings the effects of the game. No, it gets rid of the take fouls. Because no idiot is going to cost themselves money and is going to cost themselves teams 2 points, or particularly get thrown out of a game because of a bloody take foul. You make it a tech and you give them 2 extra free points. So a 2-point trip just do a 4-point trip just because your stupid ass decided to foul the guy. I think it's a good fix. So I think that's what they should do. The NFL, things like that happen accidentally, right? Say Von Miller tries to jump the snap. I know he's old now, but just roll with it. Von Miller tries to jump the snap. He goes too early. Bang, bang, bang. Ultimately, he's trying to do the best. He's not trying to deliberately foul the guy. So make deal with it. So yeah, that's what I'd like to see with those various different things. So that's that. And now, am I still on this? Transfer market. I would like to see cash transfers. I don't know how they'd work, I'll be honest. Because the fees would just be insane, just because of the size of the NBA contract. If we just take Shea's contract he signed the other day. 4 years, $280 million. That's a $17 million per year transfer. No, this is a $17 million per year contract. How much are they going to want to charge for these players? Because, this is just an obscene amount of money. In football, the contract is worth a lot, right? It's not close to what the NBA levels is. And I understand there's salary caps and things like that, so maybe you bring the cap down, but the players aren't going to go for that. So, yeah, that's... How much would Shea go for? 300 million? 250? That's a $250 million outlay on the player alone. Then you've got to pay him $300 million to buy him out of his contract. That is insane levels of money for a player. That's a $500 million transaction. I understand most players aren't going for that. But nonetheless, right, let's say Dorian Finney-Smith. He signed, I think, a 3-year $42 million. I'm just using him as an example. But let's say he signs for a 3-year $42 million. How much does he go for if he's in a trade? And you can't find the adequate trade resources. And you end up charging for him $60 million? Because he's a really valuable player. He's a really valuable role player. That's a $100 million outlay on a player who can't really create for himself. He's a player who defends and he hits a knockdown and he hits spot-up threes. I think that's all. And it also makes it more difficult to... Maybe it would reduce player movement. I don't know. It would reduce it to free agents. Does that reduce the player contracts and does it make teams even use that? I don't know. I think that'd be tough. Because then can you spend that money as part of your salary cap? Where does the money go? But then obviously, no, because then that goes into your pot for the other thing. But yeah, I think it's a bit of a difficult one. I'd like to see it. I don't know how the logistics of it would work, but I think it would be interesting as an extra wrinkle. So I'm at 53 minutes now. I think I've covered everything I want to cover. Yeah, I think I'm done. Do I want to cover the Kane all-time great thing? No. I think I've slandered Harry Kane enough across time. I'll do it again soon, I promise you. But I think for now, I'll just leave it. So yeah, I think I've covered everything I want to cover. I think this has been a good fun. This has been a good reintroduction to things. This will finish at 53 minutes, I suppose. So yeah, the next thing I'm going to post up, or do I think these might be live. I need to get StreamYard and get all that sorted out to get rid of the watermark. I don't want to be duck on that page every other week. These aren't every other day. Don't get excited. So yeah, have that up, and I will hopefully get those live episodes out, and I will continue to record these because these are good fun. There's quite a bit of writing that goes into it. This took me 5 pages. It took me around a few minutes per, maybe half an hour to scroll. So it took me all in all, it took me about an hour and a half, and then I have to edit some stuff and things like that and get this up. But yeah, I'm recording this Monday, so yeah, let's see what happens. I'm glad to be back. I do enjoy doing this, especially with this is almost prime sports season. There's also movies coming out, so I might end up talking about that. I'm not going to watch Jurassic Park. I will watch Superman at some point. I don't know when. I'll also watch Fantastic Four. Superman, I don't like the look of Superman. It looks a bit cheeks. It looks too soft. Fantastic Four looks good though. So yeah, maybe I'll comment on them just briefly, like a 2 minutes, maybe like a 2-minute thing at the end of each thing. Say if I've watched a new movie or not. 5-10 minute thing, like mini reviews, I don't know. Maybe I'll put them out separate videos as well. I don't know. It'd be a weird mixer. But nonetheless, right, I hope you enjoyed this. Oh, now we're 54 minutes, going to be yapping. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. And I certainly hope that you will join me for the rest of the videos that I will make. And yeah, hopefully I'll continue for a lot longer this time. And hopefully I'll make far more episodes. So yeah, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.